y'all, welcome to or welcome back to our very bookish channel. How are you guys feeling today? Me, it's only like maybe 8:30 in the morning and I'm like already super frustrated for the day. Got like so many things to do today and there's just little things that are aggravating me. You know when something's like not really that big of a deal, but it's frustrating at the same time? That's like kind of like how I'm feeling this morning. This should be an interesting video. I will try not to take it out on the books, okay? I do have an iced coffee, and this is just a black iced coffee with half and half. This is what I love to drink at home, and it's an instant mood lifter, so hopefully I'll just sip on my coffee and calm down a little bit while I tell you all the books that I read in the first quarter that you don't know about yet.
Hey guys, it's Jen, and I'm here to go over my quarter one of 2026, which is January, February, and March. The books that I have read. Mostly what I'm going to talk about are the books that I did not have in any other vlog or arc review or anywhere in any other video, because I have a lot that I didn't vlog about in any other video. And I'm going to be as concise as I can because I did read a lot, thanks mostly to the amount of audiobooks that I had listened to in the first 3 months of this year. But I'm not sure how many Amanda has, and I don't know if that'll make it end up being 2 videos. We had to do that once because we both read so much that we couldn't put Q1 into one video. I'm gonna do my best to be as quick as possible and let you guys know what I read and some thoughts on each of it. First of all, I have read 30 books in Q1, and that feels like a lot. I'm pretty sure that was above where I was last year at this time. Some of that is helped, like I said, about with audiobooks, but I feel like there have been some like shorter, easy reads in there as well that have helped, and maybe I just had more time. I'm not sure. It feels like I read a lot. In terms of star ratings, I have 4 5-star books in that bunch, 16 4-star books, 8 3-star books, and 2 2-star books. And not in that total are 3 books that I DNF'd because I just wasn't feeling it when I had picked it up. I interacted with a lot of books in this quarter. Of that 30, I had 10 of those in other vlogs and other videos. And I'm gonna say those real quick, just so you guys know what videos are out there with books that I have read. And we have a I Love Arcs, We Heart Arcs vlog. And 3 books I read in there are Adrift by Will Dean, The Caretaker by Marcus Clower, and Exit Party by Emily St. John Mandel. I did 2 TBR jar pick shorts where we had chosen books out of a TBR jar. This year we are putting those books as short videos that we upload as YouTube shorts. And I did The Unmothers by Leslie Anderson, and I did I Medusa by Ayana Gray. We did a blind date vlog, and the one I read for that one is Strange Houses by Yuketso. We did another viral book video where we go over a viral book and give our opinions in under 10 minutes. And the one that we did for that is Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. Then we have 2 ARC reviews. Well, I guess I shouldn't say we because one of them I'm just in it, but there are 2 ARC reviews. We did Dig by J.H. Markert that both of us did. And then I did Served Him Right by Lisa Unger. So that is as an ARC review. And then one more that is going to be in a vlog that we're releasing in April. And it's called The Swamps by Serafina Nova Glass. We're going to be reading 2 of her new books in that vlog.
So I read a total of 20 books in the first quarter, which isn't great. I'm a little behind. My goal is to read 100 books a year. I've had that goal for the past 3 years. I've smashed it the last 3 years. So I am on a roll, but if I keep doing just 20 books a quarter, that's only gonna be 80. So I am a little bit behind. Maybe I'll do a video or a short about catching up on my goal. Because I need some motivation to do that and catch up. But I read 20 books the first quarter. 7 of those books I did discuss in video, so I will probably just list them real quick for you. 5 books I did DNF, and that's not included in the 20. So like I read 20 and attempted 5, so I picked up a total of 25 books, but I only read 20 of them and DNF 5. So that leaves 13 books of the 20 that y'all don't know about. I'm going to go over in a little bit more detail in case you're curious. And obviously you'd be curious or you wouldn't have clicked on the video. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do today. So the 7 books that I did videos or some kind of content for, I'm just going to go, and that's not in any particular order. It's random. It's just a random order, okay? I read this Meet Cute Valentine's Day countdown. I did shorts on these. I did not edit and post all of the shorts. I'll tell you the last couple of books are missing because I just didn't get time to edit them and get them posted before Valentine's Day was over. So there's that. I read Bloodbound. This was part of an ARC vlog that we did. I read Good Bad Girl, and this is a short that's coming because this came out of the TBR jar. I read Binding 13 and Keeping 13 all in one vlog, but I don't have Keeping 13 physically. I just have Binding 13, and this was our blind date with a book vlog. I read Wild Dark Shore. This was part of a viral book series that Jen and I do. I read Dig by J.H. Market. We did an ARC review video for that. Adrift by Will Dean. That was also included in an ARC vlog. And finally, I read Just for the Cameras. That was also in the ARC vlog that I did where I read Adrift and Bloodbound. So if you're interested in any of those books, go find those videos. They are on our channel. They are recent. Obviously, they're in the first quarter of this year. So you shouldn't have to scroll too far to find them. And I will also link them in the description. Always, I try to do links to all of the videos that we talk about or mention in the description. So if there's a book that or a vlog that we talk about that we've read or done before and you're interested in it, just check the description first before you go hunting around, because I probably just have it right there in the description for you. So next, I want to talk about the 5 books I DNF'd. And I know 2 of these books I'm a little nervous to tell you because I know Jen is going to be like, what? You DNF those books? Why? Because they're books that she loved, but I just had to DNF them. So here is my list of books, and I do have 3 of the physical books here, and the other 2 books I can't find, so I'm just gonna post them up on the screen. I'm just gonna go over them real quick. I'm not gonna just dog these books. We aren't really about like being mean and dogging books on the channel, but I just DNF these books for various reasons. And the first one I want to talk about is definitely Maybe Not a Detective. This was a TBR jar pick, and I DNF'd this one about, I would say about halfway through. Blood and Roses by Callie Hart. I DNF'd this one about 25 to 30% through, I think. This is just not a book that's for me. I enjoy some dark romances, but sometimes I feel like, I don't know, I don't enjoy them. This one I'm a little bit nervous to tell you guys, but I did DNF The Things Gods Break. I'm sorry. I absolutely loved The Things Gods Play. I gave it 5 stars. This book I just felt was super repetitive. And spoiler alert, possibly, there's also time jumping in this book. And that's just something that I don't feel like reads well. I just have a hard time with those books. I don't feel like it's very, very, very difficult for an author to do it in a way that makes sense to me. So I had to DNF it. I am, though, okay, don't kill me, but I am anticipating the 3rd book of this series coming out. I do want to continue the series. I just didn't like this book. I think the next book hopefully will be better, and I think I'm just going to try to talk to Jen about what happens in this book so I can find out the ending. I know it probably ends on a cliffhanger, so I'm going to talk to Jen about maybe what happens in this book, or maybe try to find a spoiler video where I can just kind of get caught up on the series, because I do actually really want to read the next book. I hope that makes sense. If you're a book person, and you probably are, you probably understand, right? Like, everyone's done this, right? The 4th book I DNF'd was Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. I don't want to talk about it. I loved the first part of this book. I could not stop reading it. I just sat down at Barnes & Noble, just picked this book up on a whim and started reading the first chapter, and read like the first 5 chapters right there at Barnes & Noble, took the book home. I couldn't leave it at the store. I had to have it. And then it just fell flat. I think it was a book that just felt very repetitive for me, and I didn't want to finish it. And lastly, this pains me so much to say, and I know Jen's going to kill me for this one too, because this was a 5-star read for her, but I DNF'd Wild Reverence. I know, but hear me out. I just could not continue to read Wild Reverence. I just got bored. I just got bored, and I really didn't feel the connection. I maybe if you read all the way to the end, you get it, but like I didn't feel the connection. I DNF'd it about halfway through. So that's it. That's the 5 books that I DNF'd. And I am being ruthless this year with my DNFs, y'all, because I don't have the time. I'm already behind on my goal. And I just don't have time. My reading time is very precious to me, and I don't have time to waste it on books that I'm not really getting into. Okay, so I'm going to be ruthless with my DNFs this year.
So the 20 books, I'm just going to go in order from when I started in January until now of what I've read, and the 20 books that you had no idea that I read because I haven't talked about them pretty much anywhere. I started off with a great book for 2026, and I read The Mad Wife by Meagan Church. It was a 5-star book for me. I really enjoyed this story, and I have been wanting to read this for a while. It was one of Barnes & Noble's monthly picks, and I had it on my TBR since I heard about it last year. I don't even remember what month, but it's kind of a historical novel because it takes place, I believe it's the 1950s or 1960s, with a housewife who slowly sort of unravels mentally. And I know that doesn't sound like a fun book, but the reason why I enjoyed it so much was just the story that it told, and the writing I felt made it very immersive, like you really got into the story. So I enjoyed that one a lot. Definitely 5 stars for me.
Okay, so now that the business side of things is done, let's move on to the fun part, and let's talk about the 13 books that y'all don't know about. This is in no particular order at all. This is like literally, who knows what I'm gonna say. And I just have a list, that's it. I haven't planned anything, which is probably a bad idea, but here we go. These are good. I read The Wolf King and The Night Prince back to back by Lauren Palphreyman. I loved those books. I think, and The Night Prince was 5 stars for me. The Wolf King was 4 stars, but The Night Prince, you guys, that book, the second book, just put this series on another level for me. I absolutely ate it up. I loved it. It is a love triangle, which doesn't always appeal to me, but these 2 books changed my mind about love triangles. This is the first love triangle series or book that I've actually kind of liked, and I actually really like and see the FMC with both of the male characters individually. There's just something appealing about both of them. Like, I kind of can't decide, and I think that's what makes a really good love triangle. I do have the Wolf Queen tagged on my Edelweiss, and I am checking for arcs consistently for that. If you don't know anything about these books, you're basically following, and I'm trying to remember because I read these couple of months ago. Is one of the first books of the years that I read, but you're basically following a woman who is in a sticky situation, and she gets rescued by a shifter wolf, and he takes her back to his palace. He is obviously the clan leader, and he takes her back to his palace to kind of rescue her, and that's the first MMC that you really fall in love with. That's really about most of the first book. And while they're at this palace, there is a healer, and he's darker. This is your other MMC, and he's a very dark character. So the first character is kind of like a Prince Charming, nice guy, and the second MMC is just a darker character. He's a little bit morally gray. He's very selfish, and there's no physical things going on between them. Well, I can't say that about that in the second book, but like generally there's no physical things going on between the second MMC and the FMC, but there's just this kind of tension between them that, you know, there's something there, there's feelings there, there's some kind of attraction for some reason. And I just really enjoyed these characters. I really enjoyed the dynamics between the characters. I enjoyed this world. It's very obviously ruthless because you're following werewolves, but it's very interesting at the same time, and you're constantly being introduced to new things, new characters, new situations going on, and I find that very entertaining and addictive. I can't wait for the Wolf Queen to come out. It's definitely going to be on my most anticipated when we get to that month where that book's coming out, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it is. I want to say September, but I'm not sure about that. But I can't wait for that book to come out, and I am eagerly awaiting an arc. Like, if it pops up on Edelweiss, I'm going to grab it right away.
Another book that I absolutely love, though it was 4 stars, not 5 stars, and it's called The Looker by Laura Sims. I had read her before when she had a book out. I want to say it was in 2024, and it had this really cool cover that I'll put on the screen, and I believe it was called How Can I Help You, and it looked like a library book, and it was like in flames, and I really enjoyed that one, so I had wanted to read her again. And I happened to run into this book as a suggestion at the end of one of the audiobooks. It might have even been the Mad Wife that it gave it as a suggestion. I can't remember now, but it's called The Looker. It's by Laura Sims, and it was just her writing pulls me in. It is just so good. And I read it like within a day or two. It didn't even take me that much time. It's about a woman who becomes obsessed with a neighbor who is an actress, and she's slowly unraveling, which I'm pretty sure then Mad Wife probably was what had suggested it to me, because it did have a very similar theme. And I remember thinking after I read those two, because I enjoyed them so much, and the irony of the fact that those books were about themes that aren't exactly enjoyable, but why I love them and why I feel we love books is because of how books are written and the author's point of view, and how they show you those sides of women's stories just make it as good as they are. So I absolutely loved both of those books, and Laura Sims does have a new one coming out called The Man, and that one I have an electronic ARC, and I've been wanting to read it, so I feel like I'm going to be reading it soon. It's not out until I want to say it's August. It's in the summer, and I really am just chomping at the bit to read her, because her writing it does something to me. Like, it definitely is really, really good. I loved it so much. And then I hit a book that went to the other side in terms of how much I enjoyed it. So I read Not Who You Think by Arbor Sloane. And I'm pretty sure I had this in the TBR jar, but I don't remember if I actually pulled this as a TBR jar now that the problem with doing quarterly reviews, I think I said this last year, is I'm trying to remember January and I'm sitting here in April, and it can be really difficult unless I did like notes along the way trying to remember some of what happened when I was reading some of these books. But regardless, I did not like this book. It was a 2-star book for me, and it was the writing. I mean, it was a typical thriller mystery type plot where someone is missing, you're trying to figure out what's going on, but I didn't want to finish the book, and I should have DNF'd it, but I was pushing myself because I thought, oh, I need to know what happened and it'll make up for all of this. And it just didn't. It did not make up for it. And I probably should have given it a 1-star because I really didn't enjoy it.
Next, I want to talk about Chole Walsh, because y'all, I told you I read Binding 13 and Keeping 13. That was part of a Blind Date with a Book vlog that we did. And I did continue the series on audiobook. I read Saving 6 and Redeeming 6. And I am surprised at how much I really did like Joey and Apha's story. I honestly didn't think I was going to like it. I wasn't really wanting to read those books. I was really wanting to get to Gipsy's book, but I really did like it. It surprised me because it does kind of repeat some of the things you learned in Binding 13 and Keeping 13. It's the same timeline as Binding 13 and Keeping 13. It's just another perspective, another point of view, another person's story. And if you don't know anything about these books, they are, I would say, new adult to adult. I mean, Binding 13, this one was pretty like new adult, not too bad, but all of the other books are very spicy. And even in this book, there's not any actual, I wouldn't say any, but there's not much actual spice, but there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of like boy banter, like teenage boy banter, a lot of mention of sexual things and that kind of stuff. So I would say I would really just recommend these for adults, if I'm being honest. I don't think it's appropriate for anyone under the age of 18, but you know, that's just my opinion. And I do think this is considered new adult, but I think the other books in the series are definitely adult, and you can't just read this one and not read Keeping 13, because it's one book. In this series, you're following some kids that live in a very abusive household. They have a very abusive father. He is a drunk. He is mean, physically abusive, mentally abusive, emotionally abusive. Everyone hates him, and you're following the stories of their kids and how they connect with the Boys of Tommen is the series name, and they are boys like Johnny. In the first 2 books, it's Shannon and Johnny. Johnny goes to a private school named Tommen, and it's Shannon and Johnny's love story. Shannon's the daughter of the abusive parent. And then in Saving 6 and Redeeming 6, you're following Joey, who's Shannon's brother, and his girlfriend Aoife. And although it did overlap, which usually bothers me, it didn't bother me in these books because, like I said before, you're getting totally different stories. And it's sort of, it made me kind of anxious because I know a big thing that happens from reading the first 2 books in the series, and then when you get to Joey's story to read the next 2 books, there's something really big that happens, and you're just kind of waiting for that ball to drop. So it did make me anxious reading it. Like, when is this gonna happen? When is this gonna happen? When is he gonna go through this? This is gonna be bad. So I did find them very entertaining. I did find them very bingeable, and I do intend on finishing the rest of the series sometime this year. I'm going to probably try to listen to the audiobooks, because once you get used to the audiobooks, I do think the audiobooks are really well done and easy to follow on audio. So I'm going to try to finish out the series with audiobooks.
Next, I swung back the other way with The Storm by Rachel Hawkins. I had been wanting to do an ARC review. I didn't get to it in time. It came out by the time I got a chance to read it, but it was 4 stars for me. I've read now, I think, 3 different Rachel Hawkins books. One was okay to me, the other I really enjoyed, and now this one was back to 4 stars. And I didn't know if the premise, I wasn't in a hurry to read it because the premise sounded like it could potentially not be good, but it's about this town in the South that has gotten hit by a couple times by hurricanes. And there was a hurricane that hit years and years ago, and there was rumors as to someone who ended up dying, if it was murder or not. And there is a couple characters in this book, like huge characters in terms of their personality, and you don't know what to believe when you're reading this story. Present day, another storm is coming, and that previous storm that had the potential murder, the death, is being researched by somebody. And the woman who had been accused by it in the past, she is now in the present as well. Like, she ends up doing an interview about what happened, and a lot of people believe she was a murderer, and then you end up finding out everything that happened. And I felt like it was paced really well and it was written really well, so I did enjoy that one. 4 stars.
Oh, guys, I've forgotten that I read this book, and I don't know how, because I thought this book was so good. I read Red City by Marie Lu. Oh, I thought this book was so good. It was very layered. It was very entertaining. It was very easy to read. It had that you can't put downness in it. I was getting Jade City vibes. And if you all have followed the channel and watched the videos, you probably know this, but if not, I love Jade City. I gave Jade City 5 stars. The next 2 books in the Greenbone saga, did not like at all. Did not like at all. I thought they were very boring. So there's that. And I hope this series doesn't go that way. But Red City is a young adult, I believe, or like new adult series. There's nothing like inappropriate for it, so in it that I can remember. I don't feel like I remember any spice or anything, so I think it do feel like it's appropriate for a new adult or a young adult. But it was such a good story. There's alchemy in this book, which I find very interesting. There's different magics. There's sort of a underground, like a mafia type situation going on. If you haven't heard of this book, you're following a young woman who is growing up very poor, and she desperately wants to take care of her mom, and her mom's trying to work real hard working at this restaurant, and she gets entangled in this underworld with like these mafia characters, and each clan, okay, has these warriors, and they can use magic and alchemy to their benefit to take each other out. And there is just all kinds of action. There's all kinds of like politics and deception and turning on people. There is some love interest in the story, and it's sort of love triangle, actually. There's a little love triangle going on, and I really enjoyed it. I did. And I can't wait for the next book to come out. The second book in this series is another book that I'm highly anticipating, and I'm keeping my eye out for.
The next is one of the few that I have physically still from the books that I've read, is The Hitchhikers by Chevy Stevens. I haven't read Chevy Stevens since like 2010, like a long time ago. And I've been wanting to go back. I have this arc, and I didn't get to it in time to do an arc review. But I did end up giving this 4 stars. I thought it was well done, even though I kind of saw what was coming, but it didn't bother me. I don't feel like it was the type of book that, if it's predictable, it ends up taking away from the story. Because again, I feel like it's going to be the theme of everything I'm talking about. The writing is just really good. So it's about hitchhikers that get picked up by this couple. There's a guessing game as to, are they murderers? Are they on the run from something? And you find out a lot of different things from all of their lives that impact what's happening in the present. If I say anything more, I feel like it would end up ruining it. I do think it's worth reading. And it does take place in the 70s as well. So it's a little bit of a historical novel, and I gave it 4 stars.
So this next book I read, I don't really know why I read it. Well, I mean, I guess I know. I guess I've seen it around, and then I was able to like download it on Edelweiss. So that is my like Achilles heel, y'all. If I see a popular book on Edelweiss that I can just download, I do it. I read Wolf by Paisley Hope. Paisley Hope also, I think she wrote a cowboy romance book too that was extremely popular, I believe. And y'all know, like, I've been reading a little more romance, getting into a little more romance. I've been dabbling in some dark romance. There's been a few dark romance books that I liked. Meagan Quinn surprised me with the contemporary romance that I liked just for the cameras. And so I've been kind of dabbling in it. So I was just curious more than anything. And this is a motorcycle gang romance. You have a very typical, I would say, woman. She is living in a big city. She has a boyfriend. He's in school right now, but he's very close to graduating, and he's going to be some hotshot lawyer for this big firm. And basically at the very beginning, they end up breaking up, and she moves back to her hometown, and she gets entwined with this motorcycle club, and they are not good people. By not good people, I mean like they're criminals. Like they are involved in criminal activity. Like you could imagine motorcycle clubs, like they have that reputation. So you can imagine that, like, the things that go on. And I guess the book was okay. I'm not finishing the series though. I have no interest in reading the other books. It was okay enough and entertaining enough for me to finish the book. I didn't DNF it, but like I just kind of have this, I don't know. It's very spicy, a lot of spice, which isn't really something that I look for in books. Also, I have a problem with these like morally gray or very, very dark characters that are not good people, but then somehow the author tries to redeem them by like making them donate to charity or something. Like it's like the author has to make them not that bad so people will like them. And I just find that conflicting. I'm like, okay, so he's this motorcycle club president, but he's a big softy, but he's killing someone and torturing someone one minute, but then he does it for the greater good. Like everything he does is for the greater good. And I don't find that. I mean, make them dark and scary and mean people, or make them fluffy do-gooders. Like one or the other. Like I don't like this, like he's a really bad person that does illegal activities, but it's for the greater good, so it's okay. I don't really like that kind of in between. Like I like my morally gray characters to be morally gray in the sense that they're selfish, or that they're very protective, or that they do hurt people and they know that it's bad, but they do it anyways. I don't like this like, well, I had to kill him, but it's for the greater good. I don't know. It just seems off to me. There's something about that just doesn't fit in my mind. So it's kind of a downer when I'm reading a book and I have this like dark character that I really like, and then, you know, he's like, you know, rolling around in puppies or something. Anyways, it was okay. If you like romance books, you'll probably like it. It just wasn't really for me, and I'm not going to continue the series.
I jumped back to fiction because I always end up wanting to read fiction. I try and sprinkle it in as much as I can because I tend to have my interest get pulled by mystery thrillers, suspenseful thrillers, and horror, sometimes romance. Now and again, I get pulled by fantasy, but fiction always ends up being my first go-to, my first love. And I ended up listening to a book called Finding Grace by Loretta Rothschild, and it was a good story. I wouldn't say it was above and beyond. It just ended up being a 3-star book for me. It gave me enough dose of my fiction that I always love character development in fiction, and the story sometimes doesn't matter as much when you're reading fiction, and I felt like the writing was pretty good as well. So I ended up appreciating this book. There are a couple things that were irking me a little bit about it, and it did have kind of I don't want to say plot twist, but I didn't realize at the beginning that you were going to get this, not jump scare, but like this huge revelation. Because I thought it was going to be more minimalistic when it came to story, but you end up finding something out towards the beginning, and I don't want to ruin it. I ended up talking to someone at work about this because there's something about this story I didn't know going in, and I felt like I was a little surprised, and I don't know if it's something you should tell readers when you go into this book, but it's also something that kind of bothered me as well because, I don't know, it's different, and I felt like surprising. And it ended up being on a couple best of lists of 2025. Not a lot, but a couple. And though I appreciated that it was different and it was something that I would say kind of unique, I haven't read anything like it, I still felt like it was just a solid book. It didn't end up shooting up to like a 4 or 5-star book for me.
The next book I want to talk about is Heir of Illusion. I saw this book everywhere. Madeline Taylor, I feel like she's written other books. Can't be sure. This is my first book of hers that I've read. This book was okay. Again, I feel like this is just a typical romantasy. I don't feel like there was anything spectacularly good about the book. I don't feel like there's anything that is super memorable about the book. I do feel like it was fun. I do feel like you kind of don't know who to trust in this book. You have that like, who's putting up the best illusion? We'll just leave it at that. But you're following a woman who has been pretty much a slave her whole life to this one guy, and she trying to break out of that, and she enlists help from another man, and he helps her, and they, obviously there's some romance and tension in that. But it's still, everyone's kind of out for themselves, and you don't really know like exactly what's going on, who you can trust. And I do like that about the books, but again, I feel like that's very common in the romantasy books, and I've read so many romantasy books. It's really going to take something different or something that stands out in my mind to kind of keep my attention and for the book to really wow me. And this didn't do that. It was just okay.
The next one was kind of disappointing. I had it on, I think, like the top 5 or top 10 books I was looking forward to in 2026. It's called Detour by Rake, and I'm forgetting the other person's name. I'm going to have it on the screen, but they were also involved with a TV show that I really liked called Manifest, and I had a lot of anticipation for this book, but it didn't live up to that anticipation. And I made sure that I was rating it for the book and not rating the fact that my anticipation for it didn't live up to it. So I did give it 3 stars, but it's about people that end up going on a mission. I believe it's to Mars, and when they come home, things aren't what it seems like. And there's some interesting things that happen before they leave and kind of set up, kind of why it happens the way it happens. But when they come home, there's a lot of things that are different and they can't reconcile because they're not gone that long. And that's, yeah, some of the science of this also bothered me. And I wouldn't say that I'm like a science nerd and I wouldn't be able to explain a lot of that kind of thing, but I feel like it glossed over details. I'm always up for reading the details of the reality of what's supposed to go on, but it's definitely a suspension of belief type book. And sometimes I can let it go and just enjoy the story, and sometimes I can't. And I felt like this one was kind of like bothering me. So I ended up just giving it 3 stars.
I did it, you guys. I finally read The Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. I've been talking about reading this book since like the end of last year, and I want to read one book a month or more now. I'm gonna have to do it more now to catch up since ACOTAR 6 and 7 are coming out. And I don't know. I'm gonna keep reading this series, but it's just not drawing me in. And I do remember feeling the same way about ACOTAR up until A Court of Silver Flames. A Court of Silver Flames like blew my mind. I loved that book. I know that's a controversial opinion. I know a lot of people don't agree with me on that book, but Nesta's book just was perfection. I loved that book so much. And so I'm hoping this series goes in that direction because I've heard people say this series is better than ACOTAR. But for me right now, this is just kind of okay. It's just kind of middle of the road. I'm really not emotionally invested. I'm really not that interested in continuing. I have started to listen to the audiobook of Heir of Fire, which is the next book in this series, but it's kind of one that I pick up and put down. Like I'll pick it up and listen to it and it'll be okay, but then I would rather put my attention on something else, so I'll put it down and I will read something else or listen to a different audiobook. So I'm kind of going through these very slowly, and I'm hoping that they pick up more towards the end because I do really enjoy Sarah J. Maas's writing, and I do think she has a very good creative mind for an author, and she can really write some stories that have very much potential to like get me sucked in and rip my heart out. But these ones they're kind of just okay so far.
Next was one of my 5-star books, and I kept hearing so much buzz about this book, and a friend at work ended up reading it, loving it, and handed it off to me, their copy to read. And it's called Theo of Golden by Alan Levy, and it's more of a feel-good type novel, but I want to put a but in there. That's how it was given as a premise, and even the person who gave it to me said that. But then there are some things in it that aren't exactly feel good, and I know sometimes that still can exist, and it almost has to exist in order to get to the feel good part. But I don't know, for some reason I wasn't thinking anything tragic was going to happen in this book. And then when I read it, I was like, what? And it kind of threw me. And even she said, oh, I thought it felt like it was leading up to it, and I guessed it. And I thought, well, I just figured everyone kept saying it was feel good. I didn't think that was going to happen. So I felt like I was almost like lulled into what the story is, which is this older man who buys paintings in this like coffee shop, and the paintings have real life people in them. They were being painted by a real life painter. So he hunts down and finds the subjects of these paintings and wants to give it to them. Like he buys the paintings and give it to them, but he also exchanges it for their life story. So it's very interesting, and there's a lot of understory that happens too. I was more focusing on that portion of it than what you end up finding out. And hopefully just by me talking about it, you aren't guessing what it is, but it was 5-star book for me. I think after that I needed kind of a feel good, because even though that was feel good, don't get me wrong, it was a majority feel good. I needed like a light romance, something that wasn't going to have necessarily anything traumatic happen. But I read Strawberry Patch Pancake House by Laurie Gilmore. Of course, I feel like every single one of her books I end up giving 4 stars. And even though I say feel good romance, there is some sad story, I think, in some of her books where these characters end up being there because of something in their life. And I believe this one, because I start to forget what they're about, is about a single father basically taking care of his child, but the mother had passed away, and he ends up having to take her in and becoming a single father basically. And so that's part of it's kind of tragic in the fact that the mom is no longer there. He hires a nanny, and I know that sounds almost like inappropriate, hires a nanny and ends up falling in love with her. And I think they're very age appropriate, so it's not like some teenager. And it was a little different for me from that series because I feel like it has kind of more of a darker theme to it. Having someone had passed away and there's this motherless child and the father's trying to figure out how to take care of him. And then falling in love with the nanny isn't exactly, that can be taboo as well. But I still enjoyed it a lot. I gave it 4 stars. I love the dream harbor town that they're in. I feel like it's just something about it. I just really love those books. I like returning to a new one. There is a new one coming out in May as well. And I did read another one not too far after that. So I'm just going to jump ahead and talk about it. But there's a gingerbread bakery one that I read and also gave 4 stars. And there's going to be one coming out, I think, in May. Except I forget the title of it. I could put the cover on the screen so you can see the one in May too, but I do love those books and I gave both of those 4 stars.
I read Guess Again by Charlie Donlea. Oh, you guys, Charlie Donlea, he's one of my favorite thriller authors. Every single one of his books has been a banger for me. I have just enjoyed and loved every single one of them. I've been lucky enough to get ARCs. I have emailed the publisher to try to get his next book that's coming out, an arc of his next book, and I'm highly anticipating that. I am gonna get to meet him as long as I can go to the Big Ohio Book Con. He is doing a signing there, and I'm gonna try my hardest to get to it and go because I really want to meet him. I really want to get him to sign my arcs, and I just like all of his books. So if you like thrillers, kind of the darker, gritty detective style, whodunit kind of thrillers, I think you're really gonna like Charlie Donlea. You need to give him a try and check out his books. Guess Again is like a book that I don't want to talk too much about because I feel like you need to read it. I don't feel like I can adequately describe the book and give it justice, but it's essentially a missing persons situation where a young woman went missing as a child, and her best friend grew up, moved away, moved back to her small town, and starts trying to figure out what happened to her friend. And there's just like, it's one of those books where you don't know who to suspect and who not to suspect. Like, there's just, everyone has like a motive. Everyone could have a potential motive and also kind of be innocent at the same time. And you're just uncovering all these little secrets. And I can't say this enough. If you like mystery thrillers, just go check out Charlie Donlea's books. I really liked Those Empty Eyes. I would recommend that book. I would also recommend Guess Again. But Those Empty Eyes, I felt like was just so good. I remember that just being so good. I remember it being in many different settings and it kept me guessing. And I don't know. I just go pick up a Charlie Donlea book if you like thrillers. Just trust me. Just trust me.
Next, I returned to Sarah Pinborough because I read one from her last year and I absolutely loved it. I did an ARC review on it. I can put it on the screen. It's called We Live Here Now, and I really enjoyed that one. And I felt like I needed to give some of her backlist a second chance again because there was one I read by her that I didn't really like. And I kind of gave up on her for a while until I got that ARC and read that last year. So there were a couple more that I wanted to read by her and give it another chance just in case it was good. This one is called Cross Her Heart. I ended up really liking this one and I gave it 4 stars. I really think the reason why I liked it was the writing more than anything because I feel like the plot of this book is pretty common. It's about a mom and her daughter. Her daughter's a teenager. And she's pretty protective of her, and her daughter starts to get to that point where she wants to have her own life and she doesn't want to be so overly protected. But obviously there's a reason, obviously there's a past, and the past ends up coming back to them as typical with these novels. So it's not a plot synopsis that is unfamiliar, but I just like the way Sarah Pinborough writes it, and 4-star book for me.
This next book I want to talk about is also a book that I loved. It's my first time reading these authors, and I want to read more of these authors. I read Hollow by the Twisted Sisters, Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti, and they are very well known for their vampire, what, I have the book, hold on. Zodiac Academy. Yes, I do have the first book, The Awakening of the Zodiac Academy, and they're very well known for that. And it's a whole world, it's a whole commitment. There's a bunch of books in that world. There's a couple of different series taking place in that world. I don't think it's finished yet. So I've been a little intimidated to start that series, to be honest with you, but I want to. And I did buy the first book of the Zodiac Academy, so I do want to read it, but I did start with this one. This is a brand new series, nothing to do with Zodiac Academy, and I liked it, y'all. I remember sitting on my couch reading this book, and I could not peel my eyes away from the pages. I just thought this book was so fun and interesting. I loved the magic. I loved the characters. There's just so many details in this book. Like, the attention to detail is kind of crazy when it comes to the book. And the pictures in the book, I just felt were just done so well. I'm trying to show you, well, here's a map. But I'm trying to show you all of the little spirits. I thought there was like a thing with all the spirits. Hold on, let me find it. Well, would you look at that? It's the beginning of all the chapter. This is what I was trying to find. I'm going to take this cover off so I can show you a little bit better. So at the beginning of Ferris chapter, she's your FMC. You can kind of see this whole lady here, and she looks like a tree. And then there's all these little spirits, these little animals. And this is central to the story because Ferris lives in a world where there is a magical forest that is encroaching on her world and making her world inhabitable. There are very dark creatures that live in there that do harmful things to people. And every year, or every so many years, I don't think it's every year, I think it's every 10 years maybe, kids will train, and they will train to go into the forest. And supposedly, if you capture the most of these spirits here, if you can find them, hunt them down, capture them, they go into these little amulets and you wear them around your neck. If you capture the most of them, you'll be granted, I forget what they call it in the book, but it's kind of like a wish. Like, you kind of get anything that you want from this woman here that is sort of the god of these spirits. So Ferris doesn't train, doesn't tell anyone she's going to do this, but when the forest opens to let these warriors in, or these kids that have been training, I wouldn't say warriors, they're just kids that have been training for this, she sneaks in and gets in. And then inside the forest, you find a fae that has been excommunicated, and I'm trying to find one of his chapters so you can see the picture for his chapter. But he's sort of been excommunicated and kicked out of the Fae people's world. He lives in this forest, and he is also trying to capture these spirits. His name is Hendrix. And then there's his little picture for the beginning of the chapter. But Hendrix is also trying to get all these amulets and spirits so he can get his wish and get his life right, because obviously he's been excommunicated. I'm not going to go into the details of why. You kind of need to read the book to find that out. But it was very fun. It was different. It was a book that stood out in my mind. There were your typical romantasy tropes. There is a tiny bit of spice. But I felt like this book was just so gorgeous and beautiful. And like, look at this picture. Gorgeous, beautiful. And yes, her hair does change color. Like in this, see how her hair is like white? There's a reason for that. And again, read the book to find out why. But highly recommend this book if you like romantasy. I did, like I said, think it was different. Caught my attention. It kept me interested. I was hooked. And I'm anxiously awaiting book 2.
Next I was a little on the fence of, and it was another one I wanted to do an arc review, but I just didn't get to it in time. And it's called The Fairweather Friend by Jessie Garcia. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I think because I was invested, I was entertained, I was pulled into and wanted to know the ending. But some of the writing, especially in the beginning, felt, I don't know, stilted and almost too easy to read, like a young adult, young reader type novel. And those aren't always fun to read. It's easy to read, but obviously I like to be challenged. Now, I read enough around everything in terms of different genres and different levels of reading that I don't want to get stuck just on that point, because I think it was more of what I was expecting versus what it ended up being. And I'm trying to be more mindful of managing those expectations and not putting it against the novel. So I feel like it is very entertaining. If you really love thrillers, and especially even Frida McFadden, I feel like it's in the vein that you would like it. And the other thing that had been bothering me is there's so many different perspectives in this book that it starts to get confusing when you're jumping around characters that much, and then it also jumps back in time and forward. So unless you're really paying attention, and the book does a good job of keeping you paying attention, it could quickly lose the reader or make you not want to read. But I ended up realizing that I did enjoy myself. I didn't get too confused. A couple times that I ended up thinking, wait, what? And then kind of reassessing and maybe even rereading what I had just read. Then I ended up going, okay, I get it. Yeah, I thought it was good though.
Y'all, I just realized, like, me talking and saying I'm really wanting the next book in this series, how many series that I'm reading. It's insane. I need to probably get a list and track it somewhere, because I feel like there's no way I'm going to remember and try to keep track of the next book is coming out. But wow, these series are getting me. I love them but hate them at the same time. Next book I read, again, a little bit out of my typical read, a little bit out of my comfort zone, but curious. Spellcaster by Jaymin Eve. I did get the second book in this. I think it's just a duology. I did get the second book on Edelweiss, so I am able to read the second book. I felt like, again, this book was just okay. I felt like it was okay. Like the writing was okay. I didn't feel like the writing was particularly good and grabbed me. In fact, like some of the interactions as far as the dialogue between the characters was a little icky at some points and a little cliched. Like I do feel like there could be a little bit of work, but I feel like this author set up an interesting world. I really did like the story. I wasn't really feeling the romance too much. There is tension between this. It's a little bit enemies to lovers. So the FMC gets into this academy, and she's really trying to do well in this academy to make a better life for her family, of course. And there's also expectations. Like her parents went to this academy. Her parents are a certain type of person, and they want her to, they expect her and all her brothers and sisters to do the same. There's lots of kids in her family, but her parents are struggling financially. They were kind of kicked out or on the verge of being kicked out of their covens. These are witches, by the way. I'm sorry I didn't say that. But they're on the verge of being kicked out of their little coven. And so she's going to this school. She's going to try real hard to get in one of the best covens and be the best witch that she can. And in this school, she runs into the MMC, who is 1 year older than her. They were best friends as kids and had a really strong connection, but then there was a fallout between the parents, and the kids didn't see each other again. And then they're put back together in this university, which her dad works at, by the way, and he tells her to stay away from him. And of course, she doesn't. And there's some romantic tension between these two. It is slow burn. It is enemies to lovers. There are some secrets that revealed. Again, very interesting. I feel like this author has a lot of potential. I am going to read the second book in the series, but I feel like this book was a little average, and I felt like the dialogue sometimes could bring the book down a little bit.
The next was another disappointment for me, just because I had been wanting to read Toni Morrison again for a while. I read Toni Morrison years ago in college. I have read a lot of Toni Morrison because I took a class that was all on Toni Morrison. So there were some, though, that came out after I had been in college that I have wanted to read, one of which is called Love. And though her writing still affects me and love it, and it's hard for me to give her anything under a 4, I ended up just giving a 3-star because the story just wasn't getting me. I didn't feel pulled in. It just kind of was there. Her writing is phenomenal, and that doesn't change that fact. It's just not one that I feel I would greatly remember, and it didn't do anything extra for me to make me want to give it a 4 or 5 stars. But it's about a man. He's like a hotel entrepreneur, and he's rich, and all the women that are affected by him in his life, but also after he passes away, is basically what it is. And it wasn't grabbing me. So 3 stars.
I read The Passengers by John Marrs. This was in one of the TBR videos. I'm pretty sure January TBR. And it might have been a TBR jar pick. I'm not sure. Actually, no. I don't know. I think it was part of me just trying to read down my physical TBR because, like, y'all know, I recently moved. And, well, about 6 months ago, I moved. And moving all those books makes you really humble and really realize, like, we'll have a lot of books. And a lot of these I have not read. So, and my husband wasn't happy about having to move boxes and totes, really. We filled totes of books. And anyways, I need to read a lot of my physical books is what I'm getting to, and I've been trying to focus on that this year. And The Passengers by John Marrs was a physical book that I owned and wanted to read. Kind of decided, am I keeping it or getting rid of it? And for now, I'm keeping it. I enjoyed this book. I felt like it was very different thriller. You're following 5 or 6 characters that are trapped inside these auto driving cars, and they are broadcast, like the cameras in the cars are hacked and they're broadcast online so people can see it, and they have to make decisions on who lives, who dies, and at the end of it, it says one person will be able to live by the end of it. And supposedly all of these cars are going to eventually meet at the same point and have a big crash, and everyone is going to die unless they follow along with what this person, this hacker that hijacked the cars, is wanting them to do. And each of these people in the cars have their own stories. They have their own reasons why they're there. They have their own reasons to live or not live, and their own little dirty secrets get revealed so that the public is aware if they should live or die. It was very fun. It was very futuristic and very sort of dystopian, but also it takes place in like this time. Like, it's just, you could imagine something like this happening with autonomous cars like right around the corner. And some places I think are actually using autonomous cars. I don't know if they're actually carrying people yet, but I think they're using them for deliveries and things. So I don't know. We'll see. Self-driving cars. I don't know. How do you feel about self-driving cars? I haven't made up my mind. I'm a little bit scared, and I actually am a person that likes driving, so I kind of like driving my own car. I don't like giving up control in that way, so I'm a little scared of them. But what do you think of self-driving cars? Would you ride in one and trust it and feel safe? Let me know. And I think that's it, y'all. I think that's all of the books I read in the first quarter. So let me know, did you guys read any of the same books as me? And what did you think? Am I like way off the mark here? Do I have very controversial takes on these, or are you feeling the same way about them? I want to know, because it's kind of hard to put yourself out there in these videos for me and like say my opinions, because you kind of feel like, oh, I'm going to get backlash, or like, people are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. I'm okay with disagreeing. It's just a little scary. It's a little hard to put yourself out there, but I like to know, like, if you guys feel the same way or not. I'm, like I've said a million times, I'm very curious, and I want to know what other people are thinking and feeling. Not that it really affects my opinion per se, but it does sort of give me perspective. So let me know if you all read any of the same books, or if you want to read any of these books. Did I make you want to read any of these books? I don't know. Let me know.
Next is another author that I kind of wrote off a few years ago because I read a book by her that I was just like, no. And then last year I read a book by her for a TBR jar read, and at first it wasn't really grabbing me, but then I remember thinking like, oh, that was a pretty good book, but it was one of those books that wouldn't leave me alone. Like, I kept thinking about it. And those are the type of books that I end up paying more attention to afterwards, because I thought, okay, why can't I get this book out of my head? And the author is B.A. Paris, and the one that I read is called When I Kill You. And I did this one on audio. I originally had the electronic ARC, and I didn't get to it in time. I wanted to do an ARC review because it came out pretty early in the year this year. But I feel like the audio was a little aggravating. I didn't like the voices all the time, and there's a certain voice, because it changes perspectives a couple times in this story, but it wasn't because of the story or the writing. I feel like it grabbed my attention. I really wanted to know what happened. And it's about someone who, like an everyday occurrence, she ends up seeing something when she is looking out her window, and it ends up affecting the rest of her life. And a lot of it's traumatic. And it's crazy to think, like, you could just be like me, looking out my window right now, seeing something, making an assumption, making what you think is what you saw, you're saying is a fact, and then not letting go of that, and a lot of repercussions from that. I don't want to say too much more because it would ruin it, but I really, really enjoyed this book, and I have changed my mind now on B.A. Paris. I almost want to go back to the book, and I'm forgetting which one it is. I'll put it on the screen, the one I didn't really enjoy, but I almost want to go back and reread it to see if maybe I just wasn't in a best mind frame when I first read it. I'm not sure, but I'm definitely going to keep reading B.A. Paris after the two last year and now this one. I feel like I am going to enjoy her books. The next one is just kind of sad because it's called This Story Might Save Your Life, and it's by Tiffany Crum. I ended up giving it 4 stars, but it was headed straight for a 5-star for me because it just had so many great elements in the beginning, and it was setting it up so great. I couldn't put it down. And then I feel like it kind of fell apart for me in terms of being a 5-star book, where it didn't go where I thought it was going to go. And I was kind of disappointed with how it played out. And it still was a decent book. I still think it's worth reading, but sometimes books just do that. They're just disappointing. And again, managing expectations. I'm not going to give it a 1 or 2 or 3 star just because it didn't do what I wanted it to do. I feel like it was still a decent book, and it's one of those that I think would be great conversation with someone else to see what they thought about it. And yeah, so if you've read that book or if you have thoughts on that, please leave them in the comments. I would love to hear it. The next was pulled from a TBR jar read, and I didn't end up doing a video, a YouTube short for it because I feel like I would just be panning it. I didn't enjoy it. It's called Hole in the Sky by Danielle Wilson, and I gave it only 2 stars. It just was not enjoyable to me, and I really thought I was going to enjoy that book. So it's another disappointment, and especially given that the writer, I think his past and what his experiences in made it seem like he was going to be able to write this book in a really great way. And it's a lot about kind of like alien invasion and what would happen if something ended up opening up right above, like say in the middle of the US, and what is this hole in the sky and the chaos that ends up from it. But it was not grabbing me. It was not interesting at all. Next, I tried Norm Murphy for the first time, and this one is called Ours is a Tale of Murder. I saw so many people saying how twisty this was and how addictive this was. A lot of great things, but maybe because of all the thrillers I have read, it didn't hit me that way. It was a good story. I didn't feel like it was bad. It just didn't grab me the way it was grabbing other people. And it was just a 3-star book for me. Interesting book, but I wouldn't tell everyone like, oh, you need to read this. And I feel like people were saying that about this book. And again, it's just a typical thriller plot line. It wasn't anything that was too crazy. I mean, there were a couple twists I thought were, pretty good, but I don't feel like it was above and beyond by any means. The plot twist that I think is getting people in this did remind me of, and when I say this, I hope it doesn't ruin it for anyone, and Amanda will probably laugh when I say this, I'm thinking of Ending Things. And it wasn't that crazy in terms of how I feel like that book was laid out, but I feel like there is a kind of that level in this book, but it's much earlier than when it was, and I'm thinking of Ending Things. Since I've had that experience before, it wasn't like, earth shattering. This is so great. I think people are saying it because of that twist. It just didn't do it for me. And maybe I'm just not someone who likes that kind of crazy twist. There is The X by Frida McFadden, and I feel like the twist in that one is still my favorite twist in any thriller. And it's my favorite by hers, and I feel like it was done well. You don't always want the person to be mad at the twist. And, yeah, that's all I can say. Like, I keep trying to, there are things I want to say, but I feel like it would ruin it. I almost want Amanda to read this because of our experience on the other one, and I made her read the other one years ago. So I kind of want her to read Ours is a Tale of Murder just so that she experiences it too and can talk to me about it. Because we had read Dig by J.H. Markert, I ended up getting in the mood for Stephen King. And J.H. Markert mentions a Stephen King book in Dig. When I looked up that book, which is Skeleton Crew, I didn't realize Skeleton Crew is a bunch of short stories of Stephen King. So I looked at them, and the most well-known from that book is The Mist by Stephen King. So I ended up listening to the audio of that, and I am still now a fan of Stephen King because his writing, the way he pulls you into the story and the way he writes characters and the situations that he thinks up, his imagination, I am a fan. And I have another Stephen King book marked off my list. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and I've been wanting to read The Shining next, and I am probably going to be reading that within the next couple months. So the next is another 5-star book for me, which is The People We Meet on Vacation. I have this gorgeous edition that I got a few months ago, and I already had seen the adaptation on Netflix about this book. And so I already kind of knew the story of Poppy and Alex. So I wasn't going into this not knowing, but I did hear the book was a little bit different, and it is, but I still enjoyed it so much. Even having seen the adaptation, I still enjoyed this so much. I don't absolutely love everything Emily Henry has. I mean, some of hers I love more than others, but I think this is my favorite from hers now. And lastly, but certainly not least, I read one that I had wanted to read last year and didn't get a chance to get to, and it just looks so interesting. And it's called If You Love It, Let It Kill You by Hannah Petard. It's pretty much auto-fiction. She's writing from her experience and putting it in the fiction format, but also the book is about someone who experiences having their life put into fiction, put into a book. And I thought that was really interesting. I like the voice of this more than anything. I feel that she has such a wry sense of humor, and there were parts that I laughed out loud, and I just liked her viewpoint on life in a lot of regards. So I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was very enjoyable. If you like humor, if you like someone who has a interesting outlook on life, I think this would definitely be one that you would enjoy. One more thing I wanted to mention. So Amanda got me this one notebook that I have been using the first 3 months of the year, and it's just kind of to log your books, and it gives a lot of different, this is what it looks like. She got it for me. I want to say it's for Christmas and not my birthday. And there are a lot of different things. There's monthly recaps. Every month I have recapped what I plan on reading, what I did read, the stars on it, and then it tells you like how many of each starred book that you have. But something I never did before, I always saw people on social media talking about this. The reason why I'm bringing this up, there's something called the A to Z challenge, where you try and read a book that starts with the letter of the alphabet, and each book that has that letter you write down. And I'm only 3 months in, and I only need 8 more and I wasn't even trying to do that. I just saw it and I started filling it in, and I realized that I inadvertently was doing the A to Z challenge. I only need J, K, Q, R, V, X, Y, Z, which are probably some of the hardest letters to do. If you guys have ever done this, I would love suggestions, especially on the Q, X, Y, Z. I'm sure there are books out there. I'm sure I can even Google them, but I was curious to see any suggestions that you guys had, or if you've ever done the A to Z challenge. It's just something extra I decided to do inadvertently. Thanks guys for watching. I know there was a lot of books to get through, so I appreciate if you made it all the way to the end and listened to everything. I very much appreciate it. Let me know what you guys have read or what you've loved this year. And if I had to pick my favorite from the first 3 months, it is kind of hard because there are several that come to mind when I'm thinking about what I've loved so much so far. One that I think is kind of at the top is The Caretaker by Marcus Clower. I love that book, and I can't say enough. It's not even out yet. It comes out in April. So by the time you're listening to me, it might be out already. But I really did enjoy his first one, We Used to Live Here. This one, I just enjoyed 10 times more. It's just a very odd story. It has so many different crazy elements to it, and I feel like it just works, and I enjoyed it so much. It's definitely a 5-star book for me. You can see the vlog of us reading different arcs, because that's the one I did it in the We Love Arcs vlog that I'm sure Amanda can tag in this video. I'll see you guys in the future for more vlogs. We have a Frida one coming up, so you'll definitely want to keep your eyes peeled for that. And until next time.